What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Final Word with MattyB here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Of course, your boy MattyB on the call as we begin another broadcasting week here on our nightly sports wrap-up show, as we have been doing now for 17 episodes. Happy 17th episode of the show here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. It's always a pleasure to be here with you on a Sunday night, just mere hours away from the Philadelphia Eagles snatching victory from the jaws of victory as they outlasted and held on for dear life. 28-23 winners over the Jacksonville Jaguars. At one time in this game, folks, they led 22-0. But then a 23-6 outpouring of points. The Jaguars would outscore the Eagles 23-6 heading down the stretch of this game. But the Eagles held on, and we'll get into that. We got some Flyers talk, if we can manage it into this hour and a half time block. We're going to recap what the Flyers did this weekend. If you missed it, I don't blame you, because it was pretty nasty and pretty boring and pretty pathetic. We're going to talk some World Series, because we have a new world champion and we have a new World Series MVP and we have MLB free agency all in the same breath. We might even get into some Marcus Hayes versus Joel Embiid talk tonight, because I find that a very interesting point of view and a very interesting topic to discuss, as things with the Sixers are becoming comical. And if time really permits, I'm going to get into some Penn State football, because they continue to annoy and anger Philadelphia area sports fans who, of course, have always gravitated towards the Nittany Lions as a football program, thanks in part to the ineptitude of the Temple Owls. So we'll get into some of those topics, hopefully in the span of the next hour and a half. And, of course, but tonight the train will be driven solely by the Philadelphia Eagles and their 28-23 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars on this Sunday evening down there at Lincoln Financial Field in the Kelly Greens. But before we get into that, I do want to mention that we do have we have other stuff to talk about tonight too. We have our actual segments that we do every night, our Day in Philadelphia Sports History and our Sports Card Review segment, all hopefully compacted into one pretty show. So let's not waste any time, shall we? Let's get into the Your Day in Philadelphia Sports History. It's an Eagles point. It was a great Eagles point in a day that I remember very clearly. On this day in 2013, backup quarterback Nick Foles stepped out of the shadows permanently for the Philadelphia Eagles in his first roundabout with the team. As if you recall, in 2013, under the Chip Kelly regime, Foles was the backup to Mike Vick, but due to some injuries throughout the beginning part of the season, Foles was in and out of the lineup. Well, on this day, against the Oakland Raiders, Nick Foles accomplished a feat that only 7 other quarterbacks had done in NFL history, and that was throw 7 touchdown passes in one single game, thus pretty much supplanting Mike Vick as the starting quarterback for the rest of 2013 and 2014, to be honest with you. And then, of course, we all know Nick Foles went on to have no success with the Rams, return to the go to the Kansas City Chiefs as a backup, and then come back to the Philadelphia Eagles and win a Super Bowl. So a star was born essentially on this 2013 when Nick Foles accomplished a feat only held by a certain amount of 7. He's the 8th NFL quarterbacks by tossing 7 touchdowns in one day. Foles on the day finished with a 78.6 completion rate and a QBR rating of 158.3. And for those of you who know stats, that is about as perfect as it can be. So Nick Foles today tossed 7 touchdown passes against the Raiders in Oakland in a 40-29. What was that? 49-20 victory, something outrageous like that. 49-20. 49-20 Eagles win. And that was your Day in Philadelphia Sports History, presented to you by the good folks here over at the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Please like and subscribe on all of our platforms and all of our social media, because we need it and we deserve it. And, well, I think we deserve it. You be the judge of that, but we just need your help. And, again, a rapid fire your night in Philadelphia sports history, because we got a lot to get into. Haven't been on the air since Wednesday night, actually. Wednesday night was the last time we broadcasted, because Thursday night I had the post-game, the Flyers post-game. And of course, we don't do shows on Friday and Saturday, so we got a lot to kind of get caught up on. And let's jump right into it. I guess I guess we got to jump into it. Oh, and Steve checking in. Steve, man, you showed up here the other night. Or was that last night? I lose track. I think that was last night when I was on Clear the Ice. You showed up. Was that last night, Steve? I really don't remember. If it was last night, and it seems like it was a month ago, I apologize. Lots been going on, and I'm glad you're back. Switch to head coaches in this game, and it's an easy 41-10 win for the Birds. The Mickey Mouse Clown Show can't end soon enough. Steve, this is pretty much, I think, the proper reaction to a game like this. A game in which the Eagles, first of all, let's set the table. Boy, do the Jacksonville Jaguars stink. And boy, has Doug Peterson fallen on some hard times out there in Jacksonville. And I guess, I don't know if a win or a game like this or a loss like this for him gives him extra time because they showed some fight. It's a paper thing because the Eagles are not a team that you should feel proud about fighting against. You should be pretty upset that you couldn't beat them. But I don't know if this buys him time in Jacksonville. But his days are numbered there. And Trevor Lawrence, who I think is a very good quarterback. I honestly think Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback. He just has no weapons, no offensive line. He's got nothing. I would take Trevor Lawrence to be the starting quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. Because to be honest with you, you take Jalen Hurts and throw him behind that offensive line and give Jalen Hurts those weapons, you have Trevor Lawrence, right? I really do kind of believe that. Jalen Hurts is, I think, made to look a lot better, and he's not that good. Jalen Hurts, and we'll get into, hopefully, as we get through this, we'll get into my feelings on Jalen Hurts at the end of this rant. But, yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars stink. I mean, stink. They are stinkier than the Cleveland Browns, in my opinion. And in this game, the Eagles pretty much lulled them to sleep in the first quarter or the first half of this thing, but could not put them down. And all the dominating offensive numbers that the Eagles had, up and down the field, back and forth, still could not put them down and went into halftime nursing what was the lead at halftime? Was it 16-0? Yeah, 16-0 halftime lead. It should have been 30-0 in the half with the domination that the Eagles had up and down the field. Jaguars couldn't do nothing on offense. Eagles could do whatever they wanted on offense, and it just seemed to be point after point after point being left on the field, just in their own doing. And then you factor in your head coach and his attempt to leave. Basically, he left, 6 points, 6 solid points on the field today. 6 points that, God forbid, we might have needed. And his inane desire to go for it on 2, in lieu of the extra point. His fourth down propensities, going for it on fourth down, all that stuff takes points off the board. Points off the board. And you mess around, and you have to face a team like the Detroit Lions, and I use them as an example because they are, in my opinion, the class of the NFL right now. You need every single point. And you leave 6 points on the field against a team like the Lions, they're going to make you pay. Matter of fact, you leave 6 points on the field against the Washington Commanders, they're going to make you pay. And Nick Sirianni did everything in his power to not win this football game. From the play calling, at times, the rush attack, the new personality, the new identity of this team was on display in like full bloom as they led the way. Saquon Barkley, seriously, in my mind's eye, and this might sound stupid for me, week 9, but Saquon Barkley, if he continues with this pace, he could be legitimately the first running back since 2012 and Adrian Peterson to win the NFL MVP. I think you have to seriously start thinking about Saquon as an MVP candidate through the first half. And now I guess we are at the first half. When you have 17 weeks, this is as close as you can get to the halfway point of the season, I guess. I think easily Saquon Barkley is the MVP of the first half of the NFL season. I don't think there's much of an argument there. And God forbid we lose Saquon for any reason. Let me knock on some wood. If he gets hurt, if Saquon Barkley gets hurt, man, we're done. D-O-N-E. He's like 75% of the offense. But that's what you do when you predicate yourself on rushing. On the day, Barkley, 27 carries, 159 yards, and a touchdown, as well as some nifty backwards jumping, leaping over defenders from the back. in order to get first downs. And another miraculous night for Saquon. But the Eagle offense, for all of its rushing brilliance, still could not find a way to put down this dog. And then they find themselves in the second half where they came out and seemingly made no adjustments for, I guess the plan in the second half was to run the ball down their throat and just eke out time and hope that Jacksonville would quit at some point. But the Jaguars came back, helped, of course, by an Eagle Saquon scoop and score fumble, which a lot of people are debating whether or not that was a fumble. Allegedly, he was touched on the foot. I saw it. Yeah, it's kind of close. But all that, the Eagles almost blew they did blow the 22-0 lead, and then they found themselves in a dogfight at the end. And again, due to Jacksonville's ineptitude, they were just able to kind of outlast them. Time ran out on the Jags. It struck midnight for Cinderella. So some of the important numbers from today, and we'll go over. Let's do the final word stat pack for today, because some of these numbers are encouraging, and of course others are not. Others are a little discouraging. The Birds were 3 for 4 in the red zone today. Again, aside from your head coach's a propensity to go for it on fourth down, they scored 16 first half points. That is the most first half points they scored all season. Of course, and also they scored a touchdown in the first quarter. Now they came out on their opening drive because I beg and plead for opening drive fast starts. I want them bad. We still haven't gotten one of those. They were pretty pedestrian on their first drive. Then they got gifted a muff punt, and they were able to score right off of that. But it goes down in the books as a first quarter touchdown en route to a 16-point first half onslaught of points. In the second half, they scored 12, as it seemed like the offense really went away in the second half. It just kind of went away in the first. They couldn't put them down. They did force 3 turnovers in this game, now bringing their total up for the season up 7. That's the most turnovers they've forced in games, I think, since sometime in 22, 3 in one game. They committed 1 turnover, which was a Saquon fumble, but Jalen Hurts did not fumble or throw an interception. He did throw an interception, but it was negated due to, I think, it hit the ground or something like that. The Eagles let Jalen Hurts get sacked 3 times for 20 yards. They got to Trevor Lawrence twice for 14 yards. They were 0 for 2 on fourth downs. And on penalties, this was the interesting stat. 8 penalties for 67 yards. The Eagles were being penalized up and down the field. That aided in the comeback of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And again, when you look at this game holistically, when you factor in all the greatness that you saw on the field today, Jalen Hurts made some fine throws. That 49 or that big 40-some-odd yard touchdown pass to Devontae Smith down the middle, amazing. I said this to Kyle Quinn on Thursday. Would Devontae Smith be more beneficial in the slot? Do we have to go out and find ourselves I don't care if you want to call him a WR2, WR3. I don't care what you number them. But do we need another guy on the outside and just stick Devontae Smith in the middle or in that slot position? Because he seems to be the only person that Jalen Hurts seems to trust. Either one, he's the only one who can run the routes, or 2, Jalen Hurts trusts him the most, or 3, a combination of all the above. On the day, the Eagles attempted 24 passes, and only 5 of those 24 went down the middle of the field, utilizing the middle of the field. A number that is going up through the roof. 3 games now I've been looking at this stat. 58 passes over the last 3 games, and only 12 times was the middle of the field targeted. You're not going to win a Super Bowl working on the sidelines. You're going to have to throw the ball to the middle of the field, and you have to have a balanced attack that utilizes the middle of the field. Say not having Dallas Goedert in the offense is a factor. I disagree. They weren't throwing to the middle of the field with Dallas Goedert in the lineup. But if you could permanently put Devontae Smith, and I know you probably can't do it this year because there's nobody viable on the outside you could use, but you put Devontae Smith in the slot, that will probably open up that middle of the field at least more than what the Eagles are using it at this particular moment in time. And, of course, Saquon Barkley, MVP of the game, is he? Does Zach Bond get consideration for MVP of the game? Because he was just about on every single play on the defensive side of the ball. A great game. The Kobe Dean with the game-saving interception at the end, as it looked like, and everybody don't tell me you weren't thinking it. You were having Atlanta Falcon flashbacks as the Jaguars were driving down the field at the end, thinking, "Oh, you gotta be kidding me!" I was having them. I had this thing chalked up as a loss. I was wondering where this game would have ranked in epic losses in Eagle history if Nakobe Dean hadn't done what he did. So to Nakobe Dean's credit, he stepped in the middle of that pass and sealed the deal for the Eagles, 28-23. But more questions than answers, in my opinion. You go out and you had this team on the ropes. They have nothing, but you let them fight back. You let them come back in the game. And Steve's comment earlier about the clown here. Where is it? There it is. Switch the head coaches in this game, and it's an easy 41-10 win for the Birds. The Mickey Mouse Clown Show can't end soon enough. Steve, this is truly which is going to prevent the Eagles from winning a Super Bowl. This head coach. 6 points were left on the field today. 2 are a field goal that he decided to go for it on 4th down, and then the obsession with going for it instead of kicking the extra point. I just don't get it. Why it was why it was so important to go for it just about every single time that the Eagles were trying to line up for the point after. But Nick Sirianni wanted to go for 2. So a win, 6-2. It goes down in the standings. They keep pace with the Washington Commanders. Got a big game against Dallas. Dallas week is here, which we'll get into more tomorrow. You got to keep pace with the Commanders. That's kind of that showdown on Thursday Night Football is starting to bear down on us a little bit. That game should probably be for first place in the NFC East, outright, I guess. But, and the homers, of course, will give you the whole, well, here we go. We're going to regurgitate the win is a win is a win. But we're beyond that now, right? This is allegedly a Super Bowl contending team. You don't go out there and play the way you did against the Jacksonville Jaguars and expect to win a Super Bowl. And I get it. You're not going to win every single game 41-0. I'm not asking for that. I'm just asking for a little consistency across the board. The last 2 weeks were consistent. Consistent efforts by a Super Bowl contending team. The effort against the Cleveland Browns and the effort today was not a consistent effort of a Super Bowl contending team. It was the effort of a team that's 500 or a little bit better or a little bit worse. So take out what you want. The Eagles found a way to win, and that's great. But, you put out an effort like that against an upper echelon team in this conference. You put out an effort like that against the Commanders or the Lions. You have inabilities of your coach to make the right decisions, the easy right, or the hard right decisions, to go for it or to not go for it, take the 3 points, because this has happened before, and stop going for 2 on every single goddamn touchdown. Kick an extra point. Now, was Jake Elliott hurt? Now, he missed that big field goal at the end of the game. Is that the reason why Nick Sirianni was limiting his kick attempts? Anybody look into that? I didn't hear anything about that. Or is it just over-aggressiveness? And as Steve says, the Mickey Mouse Clown Show. We're getting into that point of the season where I hope to God it's just over-aggressiveness. Marcus Hayes and Nick Sirianni aren't winning any popular contests today. We're going to get into Marcus Hayes, Steve, because I am going to drop some basketball knowledge on you guys. I don't usually do, ever, but I've been following this story just a little bit, and I do have my opinion about it. I really didn't think Nick Sirianni could outdo himself from the Browns game, and he proved me wrong. Yeah. Yes, he did. Proved us all wrong, Steve, every week. Now, I did not I did not watch the press conference yet. I got into something right after the game. But I had heard a report that his kids were back. Can anybody confirm or deny that he brought his kids back up there? Please, can anybody confirm or deny that? Because I'm going to watch it as soon as this show's over, but I heard that a report that his kids were back at the press conference. Just the inability to risk versus reward. The 56-yard field goal was insane in of itself, yet there is so much more to critique. Yeah, Steve, listen, the 50s, actually, there was a strange sense of calm that washed over me when they went for it there. I was like, he's going for the easy right. Now, but 56 yards in Jake Elliott's wheelhouse. It wasn't like it was weather conditions. I mean, that kick in my mind's eye had more of a probability to go through. Right? I was okay with that decision. I would have liked that decision earlier in the game. I would like that decision earlier and more frequently in the game. Hurting Jake Elliott out there late in the game for a 56, 57-yard field goal attempt, I guess confirms that there was nothing wrong with the kicker and that he wasn't saving him for some sort of mystery injury problem. But I was actually okay with that decision. I really was, because it was the hard right to do. But you're right. It's almost like the devil and Tom Walker type stuff. You made a deal with the devil to live forever. Now you're trying to get out of it. So I agree. And it didn't work because he missed a field goal. I thought Johnny Wilson got screwed. He did not extend his elbow. He boxed out and Johnny Wilson, but he doesn't have any skin in the game, Steve. He doesn't have a dog in the fight, man. Whatever they're gonna not to say they're picking on him, but it's he's a rookie, he's new, I'm saying anything close will go against him, right? I agree. I saw the play. It was ticky tack. It was certainly, but there was contact. There was something there. Was it enough to be offensive pass interference? Probably not if, say, A.J. Brown did it or if Devontae Smith did it, but Johnny Wilson did it. So that's what's going to happen. You would think Jake Elliott was the worst kicker in the NFL. Exactly, man. Exactly, Steve. That's my point. Was he hurt? But Eagles found their way through this game, 28-23, 6-2 now on the season, as they now await the Dallas Cowboys, who, as your man Dak Prescott was caught mouthing on the sidelines, we effing suck. So the Eagles will go into Dallas next week, hopefully beat the Cowboys, and then set up that Thursday night game against the Commanders in Philly, Thursday Night Football, for the battle for first place in the NFC East. And with the trade deadline looming on us, perhaps there's some new toys to play with next Sunday. But 28-23, and more questions than answers. Does this do away all the positive vibes from the last 2 weeks? I mean, does this kind of put us back down to the Cleveland game? Are we back there, or is there still something to build here? They are 6-2, and they did win. But is this 10-1 from last year vibes? Is this a team that's not good, just lucky at times? And Jalen Hurts, I made a comparison that if you took Jalen Hurts off of the Eagles and stuck him on the Jacksonville Jaguars, you'd have Trevor Lawrence. You'd have the same type of performance. Whereas if you put Trevor Lawrence on the Eagles, you probably have a better Trevor Lawrence. I honestly believe, and please, I am going to get critical of the quarterback. Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. 100%. He is a starting quarterback level caliber player in the NFL. He is not in any way elite. And that 2022 thing was a lightning in the bottle type scenario that a lot of Eagle fans are going to have to start coming to grips with. And I think a lot are. And once again, we gave the money to the wrong quarterback. So Howie Roseman gave elite level money to a quarterback who's not elite. And I don't think ever will be. With all this watering down of offenses and all this basic terminology and all these basic routes that wide receivers have to run because they don't trust the quarterback to do the proper progressions and do the checkdowns and all that. Why don't you think the Eagles go to the middle of the field at all? Because going to the middle of the field requires timing. It requires threading a needle through a very tight window. And Jalen Hurts can't do that consistently. So that's why they don't go to the middle of the field. Now, could that work in their benefit in the long run? Will teams stop caring about the middle of the field, and then just when you think the Eagles won't do it, boom, they'll strike like they did today for a big-time touchdown play? Potentially. But eventually, they're going to lock down the sidelines. Teams are going to lock down the sidelines. They're going to do something with the vertical hero ball crap. Stop that. Load the box up. Try to hopefully stop the run and force Jalen Hurts to have to throw to the middle of the field because that's all that's going to be left. That is going to be the undoing of the Eagle offense. And if the team figures that out, and if the team has defensive personnel to figure that out, that will be the undoing of the offense. The offense will get exposed. If it's not exposed yet, it'll get exposed for what it really is. And that's a one-trick hero ball pony. So, yes, it was the times he did throw down the middle of the field, at least that one time, and the one time last week he did it for a touchdown, both Devontae Smith, or no, was that AJ last week? I think it was. But And maybe that's what the Eagles are doing. They're rope-a-doping people into thinking they're not going to use the middle of the field, and they strike when they have to. But I say it's not that. I say that they just don't trust the quarterback to go to the middle of the field. You don't go there over the last 58 pass attempts, and you only target the middle of the field 12 times. That's more than just a gimmick or a strategy. That's a problem. That's deficiency with your quarterback, deficiency with your offense that they're trying to mask. And teams are going to pick up on that if they already haven't. So 28-23, but they did everything they possibly could to make it interesting and not win. But they did win, and the city is ablaze in once again with this overreaction, or in my opinion, the right reaction that the Philadelphia Eagles and their clown show head coach are no good. So no. I want to believe the clown tendencies were lessening, and then I see this. Just don't be afraid to play the younger Cooper DeJean that want the smoke. I want to believe the clown tendencies were lessening. So, Steve, are you saying over the past 3 weeks was making you think that the clown tendencies were lessening, that the Eagles were resembling an actual NFL team, and that the head coach was resembling an actual responsible head coach who was attempting to win a Super Bowl? And then he sees this game. Just don't be afraid to play the younger Cooper DeJeans and want the smoke. Yeah. Listen, and that's another good point. The play from the younger players. I mean, that's definitely a positive, and that's something I didn't see coming. The play of Nakobe Dean over the course of the season. The Quinyon Mitchell, who was quiet today, and that's good. When your name is not called out a lot, that means you're not being targeted, especially as a DB. The play of Cooper DeJean. The return of Jalen Carter somewhat, the renewed play of Nolan Smith. I didn't hear Jordan Davis's name called too much today, but in most part, the rookies have stepped up and are potentially, there's something there with those guys. Now, are they otherworldly? Are they going to blossom into these all-pro potential Hall of Famers? Time will tell, but there's something there. Were they all first-round picks? Probably won't work out that they'll grade out to be first-round talent as their careers move on. But there's something there with these players. And that's a lot better than what I felt about them heading into the season. Heading into the season, there was question marks on every single one of them. There wasn't anything positive really to grasp onto any of the ones that were here. Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nakobe Dean, all were all busts, straight bust heading into the season. But they've all done enough work in my mind to kind of put that question mark back next to their name when it comes to either a hit or a bust. And I'm not going to sit here and say that any of them are hits as first-round talents, but I'm not saying they're busts right now. So that's a positive thing. Well, maybe the exception of Jordan Davis. I think Jordan Davis is a bust. But of the other three, that's a good thing. And then you add in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, and you got something. You definitely got something there. So that's positive. But today, there was a lot of negatives, and 28-23, the Eagles win. You wouldn't know it if you knew it, but 28-23. So let's move on. Let's gravitate a little bit further into the sports discussion tonight, because this is not an Eagles post-game show, but I'll entertain any more Eagles talk that wants to come down the pike. But that's my kind of 2 cents with the Eagles, A team that rises to the occasion when they want to, and a team that does not when they want to. And that's not how you're not going to win a Super Bowl that way. You sure as hell ain't going to beat the Detroit Lions that way. Sure as hell ain't going to dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs that way. They're just going to be another one of those teams that take you on a ride and then drop you off at the end of the road with nobody around. So right now, a win is a win is not working for me. It hasn't worked for me for a very long time. I was digging the vibe of 3 or 2 at least consistent, somewhat dominating victories. Today, at least, for me personally, I'm back to Cleveland Browns and square one when it comes to this team and how they might be going forward. And then next week will be forward enough for me because we go to Dallas, and then we got the Commanders after that. So it's getting interesting as we move deeper into the halfway point or into the season itself. So as I said, we'll continue the Eagles talk, but I do want to gravitate somewhere else. Fangio is obviously more qualified in knowing how to use his personnel. I agree, Steve, but these drives at the end of games, these bend-don't-break type situations like today, where they were sitting back. Now, there was a reason why they were sitting back, and that's how the interception came about. But I mean, Steve, you gotta believe, or you gotta feel or think. That's just not a good way to live. I'm not saying that Nakobe Dean doesn't make that play ever, and he made it today. And ultimately, that's why you do what you do. That's why you throw everybody back, and that's why you go into that soft type stuff. But they were down on the 13-yard line, and everybody in their mother was thinking the same thing that I was. They're going to lose. And then, the bend don't break worked, and the Nakobe Dean came up with the pass. I hate living on the edge like that. Why can't we just – Trevor Lawrence, he's mobile, but come on. It's Trevor Lawrence, for God's sakes. He hasn't been doing anything all day. And even when they started to heat up, he really wasn't heating up. He was getting gifts. The Eagles were gifting him stuff, gifting him turnovers, gifting him penalties. He made some throws, but the Eagles assisted him in getting this game back to within 5 points. So why, there's no fear there for me for Trevor Lawrence. But Vic Fangio does seem to be pressing more of the right buttons lately. In-game, and then making those in-game adjustments. But I don't like the bend, don't break. Never did. Today it almost broke again, but Nakobe Dean thankfully stepped in the front of it and made it a bend, not a break. For the Flyers, I pin my hopes on treading water and having a strong finish. Okay, Steve, I guess you opened up Pandora's box. Let's talk some Philadelphia Flyer hockey. Fresh off the 3-0 loss to the Boston Bruins. Fresh off the loss of their starting goaltender in Sam Ersson with a lower body injury, and fresh off yet another offensive dud by a team who is what they are or was last year what they are, because I can't wrap my head around it, because they're the same team, just 1 year removed. They're the same team that had a lot of positive vibes flowing through them. Same team that was trending in a different direction than they were. Same team that had people thinking this is going to be an accelerated rebuild. And now here we are with a team that averages about 2 goals a game. It gives up about 4. Averages 14 giveaways a game. Averages 25 shots a game, down from 34 at this point last season. And has a power play that's remarkably better. 8 for 30 or 8 for 42 now. As they've just dipped below 20%, which I'll still take over 12. But things are starting to go off the wagon a little bit with the power play. A team that cannot score to save its life 5-on-5, that lives on the special teams, both either the shorthanded or the power play. A team that has no significant superstar talent currently. We may have one in the making in Mitchkov. But in all the role players that this team has, which there's certainly decent enough amount of role players, none of them are scoring. Our shots are, as I mentioned, down significantly per game. And when they are shooting a lot of the pucks, as the coach has stated, it's an epidemic of shooting wide. As this team, it's not a new thing. Last year they were also prone to shoot wide all the time, but this year it seems to be hyper focused and hyper more. And now we lose our starting goalie. So, Steve, you make an interesting point. He's going to pin his hopes on treading water and then having a strong finish. Steve, what is a strong finish in your mind? Is a strong finish 500? Is a strong finish making the playoffs? Because if it's anything more than 500, Steve, I think you might be setting yourself up for some failure. There's nothing in the tea leaves right now, Steve, that say this team is going to finish 500 or 500. I don't even think they're a 500 team. There's nothing in the tea leaves, and it's not a slump. It's not it's not bad juju. It's what they are, and it's what they've always been. Now, last year you might be asking yourself, well, then why the change? And I'm going to give you my theory on the change. What was the number one thing that the Flyers used to predicate their offensive attack a year ago? There was 2 things they used. 2 things they used masterfully on offense last year. And don't forget, the offense last year was not that far removed from the offense of this year when it comes to goal output. They, I think, finished the season at like 2.8 goals a game. That's less than 3. They're sitting right now at 2.2 a game. So, okay, a little bit of a drop-off. But it's essentially the same. It's the same thing. But the two things they predicated themselves offensively last year was transition and speed. Two things that worked amazingly for them. You always looked at, and Morgan Frost became the poster child for these long outlet passes off the boards, down the seam, whatever, lofted overhead, and then would create odd man rushes or just, odd man rushes. That is not happening right now. They are a step off or a half a step behind, so they're not able to initiate the transition play. Or teams potentially are now scheming against it because they know the Flyers want to use it. So those pass opportunities have gone away or been low. And the other thing with speed came decisiveness. They were on the puck, they made a decision, shoot or pass. This year, they're not doing that. This year, there's a lot of indecision in their game. Now, as we've gone through the first month of the season and things have kind of worked out the way they worked out, you can kind of not blame them because they're starting to press. They're frustrated. They're in their own heads, even though the coach says they're not. Of course they are. But they're indecisive. And yet at the NHL level, at the elite level, at the league where the 1% of the 1% play, you cannot be indecisive. It has to be natural reflex, everything you do. But next time you watch the Flyers offensively cycle a puck, look for, let me backtrack. Next time you watch the Flyers enter the offensive zone, see how deliberate it is. See how calculated it is. It's almost as if they're trying to run a play verbatim out of their minds. They're not letting creativity take over. They're not looking for the outlet pass. And again, I don't know if the other teams have schemed against it and it's not there, but it just doesn't seem to be fluid right now. And then once they're in the zone, which they haven't really had problems entering zones, they just can't stay there or they can't generate good enough scoring opportunities. There's a lot of cycling, but a lot of indecision. There's a lot of, should I pass? Should I shoot? Should I pass or shoot? Should I pass, shoot, pass, shoot? Where am I at in front of the net? Am I going to go over here? Am I going to shoot from the slot, shoot from the dot? Where am I going to go? Where am I going to go? There's a lot of that going on. And you can't do that at the NHL level. Hell, you can't do that at the youth level. They're going to catch you. So that is, to me, where the problems are. And I did a video. It's on the network. It's on our YouTube page. It's the Tyson Forrester goal from last week. His second goal of the year. First since Vancouver. And I said, basically, is this a good sign? Maybe, right? Tyson Forrester's goal, good sign, maybe, because it was a great sign that he scored the goal, but the way the goal was scored and how it all kind of transpired, to me, was a snapshot of the Flyers' offensive problems. Everything is out. Everything is away from the net. There's nobody in front of the net. There's not a net presence. There's nobody trying to pick up rebounds. Everybody's skating away, skating around. It's from the dot and back. Everything is from the perimeter. If you look at the Flyers' offensive attack, it's all perimeter. Nobody's going to the net. Not consistently, at least. Now, you could say, well, we don't have the type of players that play the net. It's true, we don't. But when we do have odd man rushes, you go to the net. Of course, those odd man rushes are down. They're not able to go to the net. We don't have the centermans or the wingers or the big body physical guys that go to the net. We all have the same type of player. Every player on the Flyers is broke from the same mold. I'll give you that. And that limits your ability to play net ball up front or net play up front. And the Flyers are definitely, but they're not even trying, to me, to play the net. It's very bad. Sean Couturier, God bless his heart, is the only player who consistently goes to the net. Again, next time you watch a game, take a look at old number 14, what he's doing off the puck. It's pretty good. So, Steve, I get it. A strong finish. I guess I just need you to define what you think a strong finish is for this team. I really do. The Flyers are a real enigma at this point, but once Michkov learns to play a little bit more responsibly, we can start to accelerate. Tippett needs to get better. Okay, so in your theory, Steve, Michkov's going to take the team up on his shoulders and carry them to a cup? Because right now, Michkov is the only offensive spark plug or bright spot in this team's future. He's the only one producing NHL Rookie of the Month honors. Congratulations, MattyB and Michkov, for October. It's going to take more than Michkov, Steve. A lot more than Michkov. Is he a part of it? 100% he's a part of it. But he's definitely not the end of it. There needs to be more pieces around him. And just like as we're going to get into the Joel Embiid thing, this town, these fans, Philadelphia, has lost a lot of their chutzpah and their pizzazz, in my opinion, because we've fallen in love with the player and we've stopped falling in love with the team. So with the Flyers, saying goodbye to some interesting people is the only way this team's going to get better. The Travis Konechny's of the world, who good luck trying to trade him after signing that contract. Some of these players that have endeared themselves in your mind and your hearts are going to have to be moved in order for the Flyers to be better. Because right now, with the bunch of players that we have surrounding Matthew Michkov, who is the lone offensive bright spot, just ain't getting it done, and it will not get done. There needs to be a change, and there needs to be, if they're going to accelerate, it's going to be moving people out of here. This is as far as this Flyers team is going right now, Steve, with the current players. How much longer do we have to wait for Owen Tippett to mature? Year 7? Year 8? Year 5? I mean, he's been in the league 4 or 5 years already. It's third year with the Flyers. Is what Owen Tippett is right now? At what point do we say this is what Owen Tippett is? At what point do we say this is what Morgan Frost is at year 5? At what point do we say this is what Joel Farabee and his $5 million a year ass is at year 4? It's okay to admit we got the wrong players here. And it's okay to say we got to move some of them along. Granted, easier said than done due to some of these garbage contracts that they have. But it's time to start saying that the only true way we're going to accelerate any rebuild, because we don't have salary cap, 22nd ranked team in the league next year right now, 25-26 in available cap heading into next season for 25-26. 22nd in the league. I don't know what you're going to do with that. I think it's like $13 million available cap room they have going into next season. That's nothing. They're not getting better through free agency next year. So that leaves 2 outlets. Horrible for Higgins, meaning tank for the number 1 overall pick because they got a crap ton of draft assets. 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks this year. Or start moving off of some of these players that we've fallen in love with that are just not enough to really accelerate this rebuild. And again, a lot easier said than done because who the hell's taking an 8-year, $8-some-odd million AAV contract of Travis Konechny off your hands? I understand that. But I think it's time to start looking in that direction. I think it's because, yes, the rebuild may only be into its 3rd year, but a lot of these players are into their 4th or 5th year with this organization right now, and some of them have gotten to the highest point that they're going to be. Good role players, yes. Good 3rd line, 4th line guys, yes. But not 2nd line guys, not 1st line guys. And it might be time to take our team full of 3rd and 4th line guys and trade some of them away so that we only have 1 or 2 one 3rd line and 1 4th line, and actually build a top line or a top 2 lines. And maybe we can stop having new lines every night. Maybe we can stop having different players playing on the 1st line one night, playing on the 2nd line the next night. We don't have set lines because we don't have set talent to play on those lines. So, Steve, thing is this. They are what they are. And they're capable of being better. We've seen it last year. But they're also probably more of what they are now in real life, of what you're seeing. And then you add in the goaltending situation, which was not part of this rebuild. That we didn't go into thinking that it was part of the rebuild. But now you add that into the mix. This is going to be a hard year for the Flyers. It's going to be a very hard year. It's going to test a lot of resolve this year. Because in a lot of ways, or in a lot of fans' minds, or in a lot of fans' eyes, this year is going to be viewed as a step back year. It's not building on what we did last season, but stepping back into what we probably should have been last season. And that's when we're going to try to see who's in, who's out, and who's going to stick this thing out through the long term. They need to use the transition game and better in the corners. Steve, again, better said or easier said than done. They used the transition game with ease last year, but they're not using it anymore for whatever reason. I don't know. And I pointed out 2 things that I think is causing that, or 3 things actually. They're indecisive with the puck these days. Teams might be scheming against it, and they're not as fast as they were last year. Those are the 3 things that I'm kind of looking at why they're not using that type of style anymore. Why they're not. I haven't seen the old pop fly yet at all this year. Saw it about 30 times last year in a course of games. Well, not in one game, but like total. I haven't seen it at all this year. Right? Morgan Frost, who, to be honest with you, I came out of last season okay with Morgan Frost being just an assist guy. If he's the guy that can facilitate that transition pass, which he did a bunch last year, I was okay with that. Now he can't even do that. So now he needs to go, be honest with you. So the transition game, yes, and the Flyers know that too, and they used it perfectly last year, but it's not working this year. As far as being better in the corners, to their credit, I think they're playing above their heads in the corners with the type of players they have, because it comes down to just they don't have the people for that. They don't have those type of players on this team, and they're doing their best they can. So better in the corners is going to be is I hear better in the corners as we need a whole new team because those guys are giving you everything they got in the corners. There's no one holding anything back. There's not a learning curve with that. They're just being out-bodied and out-muscled because they're smaller guys. That's all. But they're trying. They're just not able to do it physically. So we're going to need a whole new group of players for that. But I agree with you, though, Steve. Lack of finishing down low sucks. Yeah, it's terrible. Terrible, terrible. Oliver Bonk will go a long way towards helping this team. Torch used to be good at getting a bunch of third liners to overachieve with the Rangers, but you can't rely on that anymore. Steve, you can have third liners overachieving all you want. You need to have a foundation of scorers to base that overachievement against. And right now the Flyers don't have that. They just have the third line overachievers. They don't have no basis to fall back on, no safety net, if you will, of your, and again, I'm using players that I understand are generational, but a Connor McDavid or a Draisaitl, you use a line that's basically comprising of them and say, you know what, this is my 100 goal line, this is my 150 assist line, and everybody else, you just give me what you can, and we'll call that overachieving because I'm going to rely on my scorers to score. The Flyers are relying on their overachievers to score, and as you said, you cannot rely on that because it's not concrete. It's like the mystical unicorn, or it's like Howie Rosen being a good GM, or it's Big Al admitting that the Phillies didn't play well. It's those mythical animals. It's those types of creatures. So you can try to base that all you want, but the thing is, there's no context to base that off of this year with the Flyers. There's no way to sit here and say Morgan Frost is overachieving. Because if you're going to say Morgan Frost is overachieving, which I'm not saying you are, but if anybody's going to say that as an example, that he's having a real bad season. Because who are we comparing it to? What are we comparing that overachieving to? Their own personal stats or the team stats that they're being put up against? So we have to have a foundational line of scores, or a foundational line of a 1 and a 2 line of scores to base that overachievement on, and we can't do that because we don't have the baseline. So these players are role players, and I'm not listening to, we're just still trying to find out who so-and-so is. I mean, how much more time do we need to know who Joel Farabee is? Joel Farabee, who's stealing money from the Flyers, thank you, Chuck Fletcher, is a 10 to 15 goal guy, a season guy. Stinks. He's a third liner. Where does he play most of his minutes with the Flyers? Top 2 lines. Point and take there, Steve. Right? So call that for what it is. Frost and Farabee had to go with the package, get creative. Yeah, they do. Absolutely. But who's going to take the reclamation package of Frost and Farabee off your hands? But the Flyers, 3-0 losers on Saturday night or afternoon at the Wells Fargo. Now, what are they? 4-9-11 or something like that on the season. I don't even know anymore. Was it 4-7-1? I have it right here. Hang on. I don't know. I was planning on talking about the Flyers. Why am I not ready to talk about the Flyers? 4-7-1 for 9 points over the last 12 games. Have an interesting week ahead of them. Carolina, Tampa, and Florida all on the road this week with potentially a duo of Alexander Kolbasov and Ivan Fedotov as your goalie tandem. It could get ugly this week, folks. It could get real ugly because Nikita Khrushchev Kucherov, not Khrushchev, you know what I mean. Valesky, all those guys are going to take aim on the Flyers. Rod Brindamore and the Canes and the defending Stanley Cup champions, all in the same week, man. Don't get any better than that, if you're asking me. So stay tuned for the Flyers this week, and we've got you covered here on It's a Wrap, because we will be here. Rain. Was it? What's the thing? Shine, rain, sun, or whatever. Good God, we'll be here with the Clear the Ice program, and one of these days. So, for those of you who don't know, and I'll give you a little history lesson. I was on a different network, and I created two post-game shows: the Fight and Final, which is the Phillies post-game show, and Clear the Ice, which is the Flyers post-game show. I started them 1 year off of each other. So the final was first, Fight and Final was first, and then Clear the Ice. Clear the Ice, obviously, we have not had nearly the amount of success that we had on the Fight and Final. And, that's due to the postseason runs with the Phillies and whatnot, and it's been a great run. And by the way, for all you Fight and Final fans out there, we owe you a 2024 season and review show. That is in the works. All the Fight and Final cast and crew will be present, hopefully, for that show. I'm working on that now. Look for that around Thanksgiving. That is what we're trying to do, to put a bow on the 24 season, because we left very unceremoniously, not only as a team, the Phillies, but as a show. And I think we definitely got to come back together and put a bow on the 24 season. But the Fight and Final will be back in 2025. I guarantee you that. But we have still unfinished business for 24. But getting back to my point, it's been a harder road to hoe with Clear the Ice over the last 3 years because of just the futility of the Flyers. And one of these days, hopefully soon, before I die, or I become senile and just stare at this camera all night long and not say a word, we actually can turn a profit with Clear the Ice and start talking about some quality hockey, some playoff hockey, and potentially, God forbid, a Stanley Cup. So that's what our end state is with the Clear the Ice. But it has been a lot challenging to run Clear the Ice, a lot more challenging to run Clear the Ice versus the Fight and Final because of the lack of success of the team. And for those that have weathered that storm, mainly me, because I'm the only one who's been with Clear the Ice the entire time, I got to give a big old pat in the back. But, of course, Sal, who is new to the Clear the Ice program this year, is doing a great job. And he's also was new to the Fight and Final, did a great job. And tomorrow night, folks, for those of you who are wondering, because I do have some self-promotions to give, don't forget, tomorrow night at 7, the Wraparound with Sal G will make its worldwide debut here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Sal will be coming at you every Monday at 7 p.m. For his kind of wraparound of the Philadelphia Sports Week and kind of give you his Salisms and all the things that he does so well. So make sure that you're in the audience tomorrow night at 7 p.m. on this YouTube channel for the Wraparound with Sal G, making its worldwide debut tomorrow night at 7 p.m. I will be watching and critiquing. No, I'll be watching. But anyway, I lost my train of thought. We were talking about the final and Clear the Ice. But anyway, it's just been harder. It's been a lot harder running Clear the Ice. But one of these days it'll turn, hopefully. Hopefully it turns. Hopefully it turns. But the Flyers, 3-0 losers against the Bruins. Lost Sam Ersson. Hopefully not for long. I haven't heard any updates about him. If anybody has information to pass along, that'd be great. But I have not heard anything more. But Kovalov and Fedotov will be your goalie du jours as we move forward until Ersson gets back. And then hopefully the Flyers can make a run at this. Hopefully the Flyers can, I don't know, be competitive, be not a joke. I don't know. But yeah. And about Oliver Bonk, and I forgot to bring that up. Oliver Bonk is a good young player who I honestly thought was going to make the Flyers this year, Steve. I don't, and I had this conversation with Jim Jackson. I had this conversation with Bill Matz. I don't see the reason of why sending Oliver Bonk back to juniors for another year. I don't really see where that benefits him other than saving a year of his contract, obviously, to get him in the Flyers at a more competitive time. I agree with you, though. I think Oliver Bonk, there's a wave of the future, and he's a blue liner, a little bit of a different type of position group. But, he is definitely the wave of the future. I can definitely see a number one pairing of Drysdale and York, number two pairing of, probably Bonk and who am I thinking here? Bonk and maybe Andre. And, I definitely see that coming in the future, being the staple of our defensive core. And Oliver Bonk is like a hybrid between Jamie Drysdale and Cam York. And that's kind of what I look at him as. I think Cam York is going to be the next Mark Howell of the NHL. I love Cam York. I love his game. I love how he plays. I think he's definitely trending in the. I think when it's all said and done with Cam York, we're going to be talking about him like we talk about Timonen, and like we talked about Desjardins. I think we're going to be talking about York that way when it's all said and done, hopefully. So there is some future bright spots I think there's probably more bright spots on the defense than there is on the offense for the Flyers. But we'll get there, hopefully. Andrew Painter looks like he can bring it for at least a short shot of 5-starter. He's definitely good enough. Yeah, he is. Had a very productive fall league with the Scottsdale Scorpions. No, they're not they were the Desert Dogs. Yeah, the Glendale Desert Dogs or something like that. He played for. Had a decent fall league. I guess we can transition into our baseball topics of the night. We have a World Series champion. We have a Freddie Freeman MVP. We have a Dodgers World Series champion. And we have MLB free agency. And we talked about this on the show last week, and we'll get more into it. We talked about MattyB's target list of free agents. I'll go over them real quick. I'm looking at a third baseman, which I want Gino Urshela or Bregman, which, I'm not going to get stupid about it. Give me Urshela because I just want him for 2 years. Because then it's Miller time. You know what I'm saying? So give me Urshela for 2 years. Bohm can go away. I need me a left fielder, which I will take Verdugo in a heartbeat. Or Juan Soto. Give me Juan Soto. And we do away with our platoon situation in the left. We move either Hayes or both Hayes and Marsh to the bench. And, of course, Crawford's in center. And Rojas is back in AAA, where he belongs. So there's my outfield, right? So my left fielder is Verdugo or Soto. My third baseman is Bregman or Urshela. I'm leaning towards Urshela. Again, I'm waiting for Miller time. So give me Urshela at third. I want a backup catcher, James McCann, to be specific, or Marchand. But I need a catcher that can catch for at least 3 years, because that's when Tate will be ready. Around there. And we only have about, another year of JT. And God help them if they re-sign him. God help the Phillies if they re-sign JT Realmuto at some point this offseason or during the 25 season. But we need to figure out the catching situation, because it's going to become a hole here soon. Now, I'm not saying McCann's the answer as your starter, and maybe Tate needs to accelerate a little bit, but catcher's going to be a problem here, because we traded away the only prospect we had in the system who was MLB ready, Logan O'Hoppe. So we got to figure out the catching situation. My bullpen, two things I'm doing with my bullpen. I am giving them defined roles, and I'm signing Kaylee Jansen from the Red Sox, and Jacob Junis. I'm signing both of them, putting them in the back end of my bullpen. Junis will be my setup guy. Jansen will be my closer. As far as my fifth starter, and also I'm moving Mick Abel into my bullpen. He will be my eighth relief pitcher. He'll be one of my long relievers. Just out of sheer principle that I don't want to see him sitting in the minor leagues anymore. He's been there. It'll be 6 years this year. So I'm not saying he's ready to be in the major leagues. I'm not. But I'm saying that we need to find out this year. Either he sinks or he swims. Another year in the minors ain't going to unlock some great mystery with Mick Abel. Put his ass in the bullpen. He's a long reliever. He's a former first-round draft pick, for Christ's sake. 6 years in the minor leagues is too long for a first-round draft pick. See what he can do under the fire. If you can't, get rid of him, move on, whatever. But no more messing around with Mick Abel. Put his ass in the bullpen as my long reliever to start. As far as my fifth starter, there's a couple options here. Painter is option number one. Or James Paxton. A little bit of an expensive fifth starter option, I get you. But I'm looking at Paxton as a versatile 3, 4, or 5 starter, because right now, beyond Nolan Wheeler, what are the locks in the rotation? What are the locks in the rotation? I got Suarez, who fell off a cliff in 2024 in the back end. Allegedly a core injury, allegedly some mental issue with his wife. I don't know what the hell happened to him, but do I really bank on him as my solid number 3 next year without a safety blanket or a safety net, which we didn't have this year? So Paxton could fit that role as a 3 as well. Christopher Sanchez as my 4. Can he replicate what he did in 24 and 25? I don't know. Probably can, but I'm not sure. But I need a safety net. We don't have one of those. And of course, we don't have a 5th starter. So James Paxton kind of fills in multiple roles for me in my rotation if I need it. And Mick Abel also fills in a role in my rotation if I need it. And of course, Andrew Painter will fill in a role in my rotation. But Andrew Painter will not, and I will place my life on this, will not be a Philly on day 1 of the 25 season. There's no way in God's green earth they're going to do that. He hasn't pitched in higher level MLB-like competitive setting in 2 years. Yes, the Arizona Fall League was a great start. Thank you, Steve. The Glendale Desert Dogs. I knew it was Desert Dogs. I just couldn't see which one it was. Yes, he pitched in the Arizona Fall League. Yes, his velocity went up. I think it topped out around 94. But he still has not pitched in high-level MLB-like competition in 2 years. So to throw him right from spring training into the Phillies, back into their bullpen, or into the bullpen, or the number 5th starter in the rotation is ridiculous. He's going to start the season probably in Reading. 2 starts there, 2 starts in Lehigh Valley. If there's no complications and everything is trending in the right direction, I would not be surprised to see him sometime in mid-May, maybe back end of May, just as the weather's starting to really heat up. He'll join the Phillies. If there's complications, if there's setbacks, that's why he's in the minor league. So I hear you, and I want him here as much as anybody else does, but come on, man. What are we doing here? Coming off Tommy John, never pitched in the majors before to begin with. So giving him an opportunity to knock off the rust, so to speak, would be great. But Freddie Freeman, MVP, Dodgers are your world champions. They deny the Yankees their 28th World Series championship, and we are now set for the hot stove season. Let it begin. Some moves have been made already. Minor moves, some internal moves with some teams. The Phillies made a move yesterday. For those of you who might have missed it, Scott Kingery was traded to the Los Angeles, or the Anaheim Angels of Los Angeles, whatever the hell they are, the Angels, as apparently we have a revolving door with the Angels. Are we only allowed to trade with the Angels? Is that like a deal in the MLB? But Scott Kingery was sent to the Angels for cash considerations. The 2000, or at least I should say, on the Fightins Final, he was the Down on the Farm on the Fightins Final, which was our weekly minor league report that we did. I had fun doing that this year. Can't wait to do it next year. But we did a weekly minor league report that we talked about the players of the week in the minor leagues. And Scott Kingery was on, like, constantly was topping out in Lehigh Valley as the player of the week. And we named him, or I named him because it was my thing, but I named him the 2024 Lehigh Valley Iron Pig, Down on the Philly Farm Player of the Year for Lehigh Valley. And now he's gone. 24 home runs Kingery hit for the Iron Pigs last year, but now he's going to peddle his wares on the West Coast. Good luck, Scotty Jetpacks. I hope you enjoy the Pacific Coast League. That's where you're headed from the International League. So Scott Kingery is gone on his way to California. So, but yeah, so we got some baseball in the news. We're heating up on that. We got free agency is going to start, hot stove, and now let's get on to because I still have to get to my sports card segment of the night, which I want to do. But let's get on to Marcus Hayes and Joel Embiid. So here's the thing, and I want to caution people out there for my take on this, because you might get a little bit of a different vibe from me. Marcus Hayes, in that article, which I read the redacted version. I didn't read the version that mentioned his brother and his son, because I heard he deleted that part of the article out or whatever after being called out on it. Marcus Hayes, through that article, was speaking as a fan. And Marcus Hayes in that article was speaking like any one of us who are frustrated with the situation with the Sixers would say. Now, whether or not he was lashing out at Joel Embiid, or if he was lashing out at the Sixers, or if he was lashing out at a combination of both, he was still lashing out as a fan. And the last time I checked, in this country, you're allowed to lash out against whoever you want, as long as it's not, derogatory, inflammatory. And it wasn't. It was Marcus Hayes speaking his mind. Whether you agree or disagree, or I agree or disagree, it makes no matter what. He spoke his mind as a fan. And I applaud Marcus Hayes. Absolutely 100% applaud him for stepping out there on that ledge and attacking the Sixers in that way. Now, as far as the comments about Joel Embiid's brother and his son, the part that I read didn't sound derogatory, didn't sound to me like he was making fun of them or speaking negatively about it. To me, I read it in the context that Marcus Hayes said that Joel Embiid was essentially using their memory, or his brother's memory, and his son as motivation to be the best in his craft that he can be. That's how I took it. Now, you can make a case, let's leave personal business out of it. I agree with you. But to be honest with you, I applaud Marcus Hayes with the overall body of work. And I wish more Philadelphia sports media members, more Philadelphia sports casters, more Philadelphia internet talk show people would be more like Marcus Hayes and grab a hold of their you-know-whats and stand up for not the name on the back. Like I said earlier in this show, it referred to the Flyers. We fall in love in this town with people. We fall in love with Bryce Harper. We fall in love with Kyle Schwarber, Jalen Hurts, Joel Embiid, to maybe a lesser extent, Travis Konechny. He's starting to go into some Flyers, which is probably not going to work. But we fall in love with people. We forget about the name on the front, which is what is the most important part of all this. Jason Kelce, another perfect example of somebody we fall in love with based on his animation or his animated behavior. By the way, he's a clown for what he did. 100% clown. Did he, as a person in his ilk or his spotlight, his status, that little kids look at, to act like he did when that guy said what he said was totally clownish. Walk away. I want to tell you a story right at the end of this. Walk away. So Jason Kelce's a clown. In my opinion, he's a clown. Marcus Hayes, I applaud you. Good job. Keep coming at them. Don't step down. Don't get bullied by the wokeness. Don't get bullied by the masses. Speak your damn mind. If people don't like it, then they don't have to read you. People don't like it, they can turn you off. But you have every single right to speak your own mind. And for those that are out there crucifying him for speaking his mind, you must be a certain level of sheep that you never stood up for your own beliefs. So like him or dislike him, makes never mind to me. Respect his right to say what he wants. Because once again, this is America. And on Tuesday, we're going to all speak our own mind, regardless if you like it or not. So Marcus Hayes, I applaud you for standing your ground and taking a stand and speaking for a lot of the fan base who's had enough of Joel Embiid, who's had enough of the Sixers, has had enough of load management, has had enough of all that crap, and say, okay, why were you playing in the Olympics essentially and you're not ready to play now? What happened? And yeah, do question his integrity. Do question his level of commitment to the city and to the basketball team. Because it's not the Philadelphia Joel Embiids, right? It's the Philadelphia 76ers. It's not the Philadelphia Bryce Harpers. It's the Philadelphia Phillies. It's not the Philadelphia Jalen Hurts. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. We've gone off the rails a little bit with our love of individual players and forsaking the team. So I tell the Philadelphia sports fan base, grow a pair and grab them when you're done and stand up for your team. Because at the end of the day, that's all that's left. Because the players are going to come and they're going to go. but it's the team that remains. Start looking at the team versus the player, because the players are irreplaceable. The team isn't. So that's my piece on Marcus Hayes. I applaud you. Keep doing what you're doing. You got a follower out of me, because I respect anybody that stands up for themselves in the face of overwhelming odds and criticisms. And as far as, again, Jason Kelsey, that was clown behavior. Don't tell me it wasn't. I don't care what the guy said to you. You're a person in your magnitude, allegedly a future football Hall of Famer, and you're walking around a college campus at the age of 40 years old, walking around with a case of beer in your hands. And then you're going to grab this kid's phone, spike it, and then I think he stole it, right? You picked it up and walked it away. What are you, like 15? What are you, 16? I don't care what the guy said. Walk the hell away. Walk the hell away. He's a clown. An absolute clown for doing that. And my last point, James Franklin and Penn State, you are clowns too. 1-10 against the Ohio State Buckeyes in his career. And what are they now? 1-14 against top 10 programs in James Franklin's tenure at the University of Penn State. New levels of ineptitude. But wow. All right, let's get on to the final segment of the night. Got all deep and philosophical there as I stand up for Marcus Hayes. Marcus Hayes, come on this show anytime you want. I love you. I want you on here. All right, let's get into the final segment of the evening. My favorite segment, a segment I do every single night, and that is MattyB's Sports Card Review, or it's card review. I don't go sports card, but these are about sports cards. Again, I'm going to post this bio up, so I'm getting tired of saying it. I am an avid card collector from my youth. Baseball, football, basketball, hockey, all those cards. And just recently, with the help of my stepson and his collection, we were able to combine our two collections and organize them the way they're supposed to be organized. And we ended up with over about 500,000 cards. So they're in one of two places: a place of reverence for the cards that have somewhat financial and sentimental value for me. And then the rest of the cards, which are in baseball, are separated in team boxes. Basketball, football, and hockey are separated in just like hockey box, football box, and basketball box. And so what I am doing is taking the cards that have a place in reverence, which are in binders, about 6 of them, about 150 pages each. And we're literally going card by card through my collection, just spending a few minutes every night talking about it, enjoying some of the trip down memory lane that some of these cards will provide me, and maybe you, and also talking about some of the financial value that these cards might have, and then some of the intrinsic value that some of these cards have. So let's roll the music for MattyB's card review.
Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad.
And we don't have any music.
This is what you call a bad. What? Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad.
All right, there we go. Top dollar budget here. A little technical difficulties, but we got through it. So let's talk about MattyB's card review tonight. I said last week, we started the segment last week, and we did mainly baseball. We broke ground on the baseball world. Did mainly baseball cards to start. Did a football card, I believe, late last week was a Josh Allen rookie card we talked about, and we did I think two basketball cards. So the only sport we hadn't touched so far is hockey, and so I'm going to end that streak tonight by debuting our first hockey card of the night, of the segment. This is a card from a player that, in my opinion, honestly, this kid or this guy was snake bitten in his career. Joined his team, who he ended up playing his entire career with, his entire Hall of Fame career with, late in that team's dominant run, and basically as his Hall of Fame career began to take shape, it took shape on a really bad team, very bad team. And but he ended up staying there for his entire career, which ended in 2003. And it's almost a 20-year NHL career with one team. So I'm going to debut this card right now. It is the 1990 Topps Pat LaFontaine. That's right. Pat LaFontaine from the New York Islanders, a U.S. American hockey player. I guess his claim to fame was he was a member of the 1992 World Cup of Hockey Team USA team that won the gold medal, beat the Canadians. But as I said, drafted, actually he was acquired, his draft rights were acquired from the Colorado Rockies, who at that point were to be the New Jersey Devils. Back in 1983, the Islanders sent a package of players for Colorado's first-round pick, which was the third overall in the 83 draft, and that happened to be Pat LaFontaine. Joined the Islanders for their final year at a fifth straight cup run. They were going for their fifth straight, but they ended up losing to Edmonton, and it ushered in basically a period of losing that would dog LaFontaine pretty much his entire career as an Islander. But as I said, 20 years in the league, was elected to both the U.S. Hockey and the Hockey Hall of Fame as a retired player, and really a good player. I remember him very, very well as a young kid. Again, when you look at some of the Islander greats, which that list is not too long, he's definitely up there, maybe along with Mike Bossy and Dennis Potvin. But Pat LaFontaine, what could have been, it was a Hall of Fame career anyway, but what it could have been if it were on a better team. And what does it say about his character that he stayed with the Islanders for his entire career? Just a remarkable person and player. Hall of Fame career, but in the shadows pretty much throughout the entire part of that career. But this is not really about a testament to LaFontaine. It's a testament to the hockey card. When you think sports cards, you don't necessarily go into hockey as a genre of profit, marketability. Obviously, when you look at the Wayne Gretzky, if you have a Gretzky rookie, that's a pretty valuable card. Anything Mark Messier is pretty valuable. Mike Modano rookie, which I have, which we'll probably do at a future time, is a valuable card. Eric Lindros, Connor Bernard, Patrick Kane, Crosby, Lemieux. There's a handful out there that have value, right? Intrinsic value, but most of them are pretty middle of the road. And if you basically find a hockey card that is worth more than $3, you got something. And this Pat LaFontaine, which there's not much data on, because it's not a widely traded or sold card, I found it on auction currently right now for $60. That's the starting bid. But a more realistic price, I found to be about $6 for this condition of card. PSA 9, which is what this one is the value is about $6. Now, some of the newer hockey cards within the last 10 years have really gotten cool with their designs and their features, the chrome that they use, the refraction that they use. And these cards are becoming really valuable. They really are. If you can get your hands on a Connor Bernard rookie card from last season, and even a Cutter Gauthier rookie card, which is out right now, those cards start right now at about $80 because of their design and all that and the features that they have on the card. And so hockey, when it comes to designing of their cards, has gotten really elaborate with it. But this is an old school 1990 card. And again, valued at about $6, fair value. And here it is right here. Here it is in its physical form. As I've said every episode, all my cards are raw, meaning they've not been rated by PSA or graded by PSA. They are all in the raw form. But here's the Pat LaFontaine 1990 Topps. Just a cool card, man. It reminds me of my youth. It really does. A player that had a Hall of Fame career stuck with a bad team. Joined them right at the end of their cup runs, too. So there you have it. There's my Pat LaFontaine hockey card review on MattyB's card review of the night. And that was brought to you, but everything else is brought to you by the fine folks here at It's a Wrap Sports. Please like and subscribe on all of our social media platforms. We really appreciate it. And that is going to take me to the end of my show tonight. Big topic tonight. Eagles found a way to win despite losing. And they beat the Jaguars 28-23. Do you feel better about the Eagles based on what they did over the last 2 weeks, or is this another step back in the wrong direction? As Steve pointed out very elegantly, the clown show continues with your head coach. The Flyers, listless one game over the weekend where they got shut out. MLB free agency, we got a new world champion. Freddie Freeman's your MVP. Marcus Hayes, I applaud you. You're a great American. Continue doing what you do. And the card review. In our day in Philadelphia sports history, which was Nick Foles throwing 7 touchdown passes on this day back in 2013. All that in 1 hour and 21 minutes, give or take. Not bad, folks. Thank you very, very much for tuning in. Remember the great programming we have here on the network throughout the week. Tomorrow night, the worldwide premiere of Sal G, the wraparound Sal G at 7 p.m. on Monday night, tomorrow night here on It's a Wrap Sports. We got you covered with 3 Clear the Ice shows this week. Of course, me coming back every night, Sunday through Thursday. So make sure you're tuned in here for all the great things that are happening. And we're growing every day. You just might not see it right now, but we are growing every day. But thank you for your support. Thank you for your continued support. Have a great rest of your night and enjoy your tomorrow. We'll talk again real soon.
I've been coming up hot for a minute. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. Drop the top when I'm in it. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. Yeah, I'm so. Everybody know I'm. You know when they click through to the send it's about to be a trophy.